Well, I rise to support the motion. I think one of the crucial priorities for the Workers' Party is to raise political consciousness. And the truth is that I don't accept the notion that people are not socialists or they're alienated by socialism. The truth is that most people actually do support socialist alternatives for this country. We only have to look to the Gyles Brandreth clip on YouTube. If you've not seen it, I can highly recommend it, where he was looking for secret socialists in the capital of the home counties in Guildford. This was at the height of Jeremy Corbyn's period as leader of the Labour Party, and he was stopping people on the street and asking them whether they supported bringing the utilities back into public ownership, whether they thought it was a good idea to get rid of tuition fees, whether they believed that the private rented sector should be regulated, whether indeed the privatisers should be kicked out of the National Health Service. And universally, everybody was saying, yes, yes, absolutely, we support those propositions. And then he would say to them, well, you're a secret socialist then, sir or madam. And they said, well, what do you mean by that? And he had a little clipboard with him, and he turned it around and said, well, these are the policies of Jeremy Corbyn. And there's a photograph of Jeremy Corbyn on the back of it, and they kind of recorded a little bit then because they'd done a number on him. But we shouldn't shy away from promoting socialism. Socialism is the only solution, it seems to me, to actually get the country back on track again, isn't it? I mean, we are an incredibly wealthy country that issues its own currency. We can have a good society. It just takes political will. Look at the situation after the Second World War, when the country genuinely was broke, when it was subject to the gold standard, a debt to GDP ratio of, I think it was around 250%, but we didn't say, like Rachel Reeves is saying now, well, we can't afford to do X, Y, and Z. We need to rely on the private sector to invest. It's all bullshit. What did they do? They built the National Health Service, created the National Health Service, created the welfare state, built 1 million homes when the country was broke, and set in train, I think they could have gone further actually, but nevertheless, they set in train a post-war consensus that stood the test of time for 34 years. Every single year from 1945 onwards until the mid-1970s, when Dennis Healey stupidly went to the International Monetary Fund on a false premise and borrowed money from, I think it was $3.9 billion from the International Monetary Fund, that somehow a country that issues its own currency could run out of money. Absolutely absurd proposition. They never drew it down. And bear in mind what the Labour Party put forward in that 1974 manifesto was to bring about an irreversible shift in the balance of wealth and power in favour of working people and their families. And that was the policy that they were pursuing until Dennis Healey, well, until actually Harold Wilson stepped down, and then Dennis Healey went off to the IMF. And then what did they do? They introduced austerity measures, didn't they? It led directly to the so-called winter of discontent. The first monetarist government, the first neoliberal government, wasn't Thatcher. It was Callaghan and Healey's government. They set us on a path towards the situation where we've now got 14.5 million people living in poverty, people sleeping on the street. What a disgrace. Working class people used to aspire to buy their own home and have a good society. We can have a good society, can't we, through a socialist alternative. So get behind this motion.